Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at the career of Val Kilmer,
Yeah.
a very interesting and sort of complex, and I would say maybe even sometimes controversial figure in Hollywood.
He's certainly an artist who I think a lot of people have strong opinions about one way or the other, but
Yeah.
looking back at the breadth of his work, especially when you consider the kind of intensity he brought to it, I think you can see that he was very committed to his craft,
Yeah.
even when that commitment sparked debate.
Right. And for anyone just joining us, Val Kilmer sadly passed away this past Tuesday in Los Angeles
Okay.
at the age of 65.
Yeah.
And his daughter, Mercedes Kilmer, shared that pneumonia was the cause following his recovery from throat cancer, which he was first diagnosed with back in 2014. And that included 2 tracheotomies.
Right.
So that's really what prompted this look back
Mhm.
at his career, which, I mean, right from the get-go showed such promise.
I mean, right. So he was accepted to Juilliard at 17, the youngest at the time.
That's wild.
I mean, to put that in perspective, Juilliard is maybe the most prestigious performing arts conservatory in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of students will enter in their early 20s.
Right, right.
So his early admission is especially noteworthy.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about the level of talent and dedication
Mm.
that must have been evident that early.
Right?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's actually kind of trace his steps back from the beginning, because the 80s weren't all blockbuster glory right away.
Right.
We saw him in the spy spoof Top Secret back in 84, which I think showed off his comedic timing really well.
Yeah.
And then Real Genius in 85. And these were lighter roles than some of the dramas that he would become known for.
Right.
But they definitely showed this more playful side.
I think it underscores his versatility. It's
Yeah.
always really fascinating to see an actor that has this kind of dramatic intensity
Yeah,
that can also pull off comedy.
totally.
And I think his early Juilliard training probably gave him a strong foundation to explore these diverse genres
Yeah, totally.
so early in his career.
And then the 90s hit, and that's when he really solidified that leading man status. I mean, just think about Tombstone in 93. His portrayal of Doc Holliday, it's still quoted constantly to this day.
Oh, yeah.
That memorable, almost surreal turn as Elvis's ghost in True Romance, and then the sheer intensity he brought to Michael Mann's Heat in 95, holding his own against Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a powerful sequence of roles.
It was a powerful sequence of films, and it really showcases his ability to embody these very distinct characters, right?
Yeah.
What I think is so fascinating is Michael Mann's own assessment of Kilmer around that time.
Okay.
He spoke about Kilmer's, quote, range and brilliant variability, which is significant praise coming from a director known for his, I would say, exacting standards and the psychological depth he brings to his characters.
And that's really what gets captivating, I think, is this deep immersion
Mhm.
that he had into his roles.
Yeah.
We hear these almost legendary stories about his preparation.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So, for example...
Well, for Tombstone, there's the famous anecdote, right, where he was filling his bed with ice
Oh, wow.
just to try to grasp the physical sensations of what it would feel like to be dying from tuberculosis.
Wow.
That's a level of commitment
That's serious.
that goes beyond simple research.
Yay.
It's about trying to inhabit the physical reality of this character.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know, method acting is an approach where actors are really striving to connect emotionally and psychologically with the lives of their characters.
Yeah.
Sometimes even employing techniques that extend far beyond rehearsals and filming.
It's almost becoming the character,
Right.
rarely.
Yeah.
And then there's his transformation into Jim Morrison for The Doors,
Right.
which is almost mythical at this point. He was wearing leather pants constantly, insisted on being called Morrison, and he lived and breathed The Doors music for an entire year.
Wow. For a year.
It's not just learning lines,
Right.
it's almost a complete identity shift.
Yeah, I think it's just a profound need to actually become the character,
Yeah.
but also just this level of personal investment that's so compelling about it.
It's almost like, how far will you go for this authenticity?
Right.
And I think, as you might expect, that intensity didn't always make for the smoothest collaborations on set.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that there's long been a perception of Kilmer as being a challenging actor to work with.
Right.
And interestingly, he addressed this himself in his 2020 memoir, I'm Your Huckleberry.
Oh, okay.
And while he acknowledged that, there were difficulties, he framed his actions as part of a dedication to finding the, quote, truth and essence of each project.
So he saw it as his intensity being driven by this unflinching attempt to empower directors, actors, and other collaborators.
Right.
He almost viewed himself as this guardian of the project's artistic vision,
I see.
even if his methods sometimes ruffled feathers.
Right. So in his mind, pushing for a certain level of authenticity, even if it meant challenging the norms or personalities on set,
Right.
was ultimately serving the film.
Right. Right. Right.
But of course, there's always multiple sides to every story. We also have contrasting accounts from directors like Joel Schumacher and John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
Frankenheimer's statement about never wanting to work with him again after The Island of Dr. Moreau is pretty strong, and it really illustrates the kind of conflict that can arise from these intense approaches.
Yeah, his reaction, I think, really underscores the tension that can arise when an actor's process clashes with the logistical and collaborative
Right.
realities of filmmaking. It's this balance between individual artistic vision
Yeah.
and a cohesive team environment.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But it is important to get other perspectives as well.
Yes.
DJ Caruso, who directed him in The Salton Sea,
Okay.
offered a different take,
Yeah.
suggesting that Kilmer's process was about deeply understanding the character and actively engaging with the director's vision.
Interesting.
It wasn't about being difficult just to be difficult.
Right.
It was about this commitment to the role.
Right. It seems like whether his intensity was a valuable contribution or a hindrance really depended on the director's style
Yeah,
and their approach to collaboration.
right.
Filmmaking is about personalities and methodologies all coming together.
It's a melting pot
It
of
is.
different creative
Exactly. The
relationships.
collaborative nature of cinema means that different artistic temperaments and working methods will inevitably interact,
Right.
sometimes harmoniously and sometimes with friction.
Right.
And I think Kilmer's really immersive approach, while it might have led to these really memorable performances, clearly had this sort of varied impact on his relationship.
Yeah, it definitely ruffled some feathers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some of the roles that really etched him in cinematic history, starting with Iceman in Top Gun.
Right.
I mean, it's almost impossible to picture anyone else in that role now.
It's so iconic.
And what's funny is that he admitted he initially didn't even want the part.
Oh, wow.
He didn't care about the film.
He didn't care about the film.
Yeah.
Wow.
He only agreed after they made assurances that his character would have more depth than initially presented.
I see.
And it's kind of ironic that a role that he was so hesitant about became this defining moment in his early career.
Right, and this cultural touchstone for so many people.
Right. And I think, his return as Iceman in Top Gun Maverick decades later
Yes.
carried a lot of emotional weight for audiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially given his health journey.
Yeah.
And then stepping into the cowl as Batman in Batman Forever, he followed Michael Keaton and preceded George Clooney.
Right.
So he was part of this lineage of actors playing that role.
Of course, taking on the role of Batman is a huge undertaking.
Huge.
With so much scrutiny from fans and audiences.
Yeah.
Janet Maslin of the New York Times actually felt that he was somewhat hamstrung by a more conventional portrayal,
Okay.
while Roger Ebert had a more moderate view, describing his performance as completely acceptable.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And Kilmer himself was actually quite candid about his experience as Batman,
Oh, really?
particularly about the limitations of the suit.
Okay.
He described it as incredibly isolating,
Oh, wow.
restricting his movements and his hearing.
Wow.
And he said that it ultimately felt like his job was just to show up and stand where I was told.
That sounds very limiting for an actor, especially an actor like Kilmer, who is known for his really deep character work.
Right.
It highlights a challenge that actors in these visually demanding roles often face.
Right.
When the physical constraints of a costume or the technical requirements of the film dominate the process,
Yeah.
it can really impede an actor's ability to express the nuances of their character.
Especially someone like Kilmer who thrived on internalizing those roles. So after his time as Batman, his career went in some intriguing directions. He starred in The Saint, and then there was the notoriously troubled production of The Island of Dr. Moreau with Marlon Brando.
Yeah, The Island of Dr. Moreau. That set sounds like it was just this whirlwind of challenges.
A total whirlwind.
So the documentary Lost Soul
Okay.
actually gives this fascinating behind-the-scenes look.
Okay.
They had everything from a hurricane on set to Kilmer's reported clashes with the original director, Richard Stanley,
Oh, wow.
who was fired, and then reportedly snuck back onto the set.
What?
Yeah, and there were significant script changes that involved both Kilmer and Brando.
Oh, wow.
There's a great quote from Brando to Kilmer where he says, quote, "It's a job now, Val. A lark. We'll get through it."
Oh, wow.
And really captures the sense of, I would say, the chaotic and somewhat detached atmosphere
Yeah.
of that production.
It really does.
Kilmer actually described it as one of the most difficult periods he experienced on a film set.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it even got made.
Right.
It's amazing that they were able to wrangle all these personalities and these big events.
And I think, the dynamic between Kilmer and Brando
Yeah.
is also really fascinating to consider, right? Two strong personalities
Huge.
in this unpredictable environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it speaks to the unpredictable nature of filmmaking, right?
Absolutely.
And how different factors, from creative disagreements to logistical issues, can really impact a project.
It's a beast that
Yeah.
you never know what it's going to throw at you.
Right.
But he didn't just do these big, sometimes tumultuous productions.
Right.
Later in his career, he took on these smaller, more character-driven roles.
Mm-hmm.
Spartan, Joe the King, and notably John Holmes in Wonderland.
Yeah.
These roles really showcased a different side of his talent.
Right.
This willingness to delve into these more complex and maybe less commercially driven characters. It was
Yeah.
a continued commitment to his craft.
Right. Beyond just the demands of leading man status.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, his artistic pursuits extended beyond the screen.
Yeah.
He created and starred in his one-man stage show, Citizen Twain,
Okay.
embodying the spirit of Mark Twain.
Wow.
It seems like he had a genuine connection with this iconic American figure.
Yeah, he spoke with this admiration for Twain's depth and soul
Yeah.
and his ability to, blend these profound observations with wit and humor.
Totally.
I think it suggests an intellectual curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and a desire to engage with characters that have left a lasting mark
Yeah. Yeah.
on our culture.
So let's shift gears for a second and talk about his personal life a bit.
Okay.
He had an interesting upbringing in Los Angeles and even attended high school with future stars Kevin Spacey and Mare Winningham.
Wow, that's a very talented graduating class.
Right.
It really is, and I think it speaks to the kind of creative environment of certain communities in Los Angeles.
Yeah, for it.
These early connections and shared experiences can definitely play a role in shaping artistic paths.
Yeah, and sadly, tragedy struck early in his life with the loss of his younger brother, Wesley, who was only 15 at the time
Oh, wow.
and had aspirations to be a filmmaker himself.
Okay.
And this loss really had a profound impact on Val Kilmer.
It seems like, by all accounts, the loss of his brother was really significant,
Yeah.
and it continued to inspire him throughout his life.
Right.
It's a reminder that both the good and bad experiences we have
Yeah.
can really impact our work.
Totally.
Yeah.
And beyond acting, he was this multifaceted artist.
Mm-hmm.
He co-authored a play during his time at Juilliard, famously turned down a role in The Outsiders for a Broadway role,
Wow.
published poetry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He received a Grammy nomination for his spoken word album, The Mark of Zorro, and he was also a visual artist.
Wow. A lot of creative outlets.
A wide range.
Yeah, it underscores his creative energy
Right.
that went far beyond just his acting.
And it's important to note, his lifelong commitment to Christian Science.
Yeah.
That was a big part of his life and his beliefs.
And it probably played a role in how he dealt with life's challenges,
Yeah, for sure.
including his health struggles later on.
He also had notable relationships, including with Cher
Yeah.
and his marriage and divorce from Joanne Whalley,
Right.
with whom he had his 2 children, Mercedes and Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really moving that Jack voiced his father in the documentary Val after his cancer treatment affected his speech.
That's a powerful testament to their bond
Yeah, totally.
and the support that surrounded him.
And he really seemed to find peace and reflection in his later years.
Mm.
In 2021, he was quoted as saying, "I have no regrets. I've witnessed and experienced miracles."
That's an incredible statement.
A powerful statement.
It suggests a life lived with a lot of passion
Yeah.
and intensity, embracing the highs and lows
Yeah.
and finding gratitude for the journey.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the life and career of Val Kilmer, from his remarkable versatility to his intense dedication to his craft, the highs and lows of his iconic roles, and his resilience in the face of personal and health challenges.
It's hard to deny that he was this very unique figure in Hollywood,
You.
leaving behind such a diverse and memorable body of work.
Yeah, for sure.
His passing really signifies the end of an era for those of us who have followed his career.
And it makes you consider the relationship between this intense artistic passion and the complexities of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So for you listening at home, which of Val Kilmer's performances resonated most deeply with you? And what was it about his approach that made it so unforgettable? It's something to ponder as we remember this truly distinctive talent.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, see you then.